Hi, Craig. Right, I've put together quite a bit of analysis, really, and to save doing sort of an hour-long video, which I can do if it looks of interest. I thought I'd do a reasonably short one, but I can give you the highlights of what I think, and really just to see what you think, and to see if it's worth investigating further. Excuse me. So, how I started was looking at traffic, obviously. First got to determine if there's traffic to go after, which there seems to be. So I started off with BMS systems as a phrase, which is 720 a month in the UK. I can never say it. BEMS, 480 a month in the UK, and building management system, which is 880 in the UK per month. And a few sort of one particular company keeps coming up, and then a few others for BEMS. BEMS. So what I did a ranking report on trend controls, as I thought, they seem to be ranking tops. The Google seems to see they're the most relevant around these subjects, at least those three. Then went through what they're ranking for, and whether they must have a digital plan in place, because they've got a lot of number one positions around this stuff. A lot of it is branded, like Trend 963 BMS. I assume that's a product name, but for sort of intent to buy general phrases, they've got quite a few. So I went through this list, ticked what I thought was relevant, and then put it into this list here. Not that list there, a different list. This is the one. Yeah. So for UK search volumes, and that ranges from, I can send this over to you. This is just the first sort of run through, really. These are the phrases that I looked at that could potentially go after. It would require some further analysis to see where we're going to get sort of the path of least resistance. But so anything from BMS controls to BMS system software, BMS building management systems, and these are the volumes on them, which are all reasonable. And there's some 10s and 20s in here, but I'd imagine they're pretty sort of targeted phrases. BMS controls training. I don't know if you guys offer training. Building control systems, HVAC control panel, BMS maintenance. So, and adding all those up, there's 4,860 searches a month just on those, which is a total of 46 key phrases. So, on the face of it, just as an initial analysis, there is traffic to go after, which is a good thing. And pretty reasonable, really, considering it's business to business traffic. I think I've looked into other niches, and there tends to be lower volumes than that. So traffic looks reasonable. Now, looking at the competition. So if I bring up, I'll take one at a time because they're slightly different animals, really. Trend controls here. They're coming number one for BMS systems, BEMS, and building management system. The landing page looks like this. Which is important, really. I mean, this is more around what the offering is and making sure that our landing page is going to convert. But I think it's worth noting from the outset where people are landing and what the quality of that is. Now, for that, it's just something important point to note. I'd imagine from the fact I can see that Trend Controls are probably a very big firm. But from a digital point of view, in terms of competition, what is important to point out here is we're not competing with the main domain. We're competing with this inner landing page. And this inner landing page has 10 links going to it, or around that. It also, the whole website has what we call domain authority of 39 and PA of 17. So if you imagine, they're literally like just two scores. There's the domain score and the page score. And they're pretty healthy. They're not hyper competitive, but they're about medium competitions, I would say. But we're not competing with the whole site. We're just competing with these metrics here in the first instance. So I looked into that a bit further, just to give you an idea sort of how sort of deep we can dig into this. And I ran a bit of software, and it told me that this is the links that's going to that page. One of the links that's going to that page. This is the text, the anchor text that is linking to it. So that's how it's described. And this is the website that it's coming from, which is looks like an engineering forum. And this was done, seems to be 2015. So the 9th of the 7th, 2015. Someone's replied to a question. I'd imagine this is an SEO company's done this just from the, they've sort of gone and they've made you register for this forum just to get these links in. I haven't clicked that one, so I just want to try that out. It's a pop-up block. But when I did it before, this one goes through to this page. So the power, in terms of SEO power, it's getting from that link primarily for that page, amongst some inner links from its own website. So that's not out of the question to compete with in my eyes. Okay, maybe just to demonstrate that a bit further. Trend Controls as a website, which is a big website, has in terms 4,000 links going to it from 75 different websites. The inner URL, which we competed with, as I just showed you, as we saw, has got 1 root domain and 10 links. Okay, so that's a little bit of competition around Trend Controls as a competitor. Now looking at, which I assume are smaller players, these seem to be the UK companies. So for the search term BEMS, these I've actually run some metrics on these guys. So these have a domain score of 13 and a page score of 27, a domain of 11, page score of 26, which is lower than Horizon Controls. So Horizon Controls has a domain of 17 and a page score of 31. So from the outset, Horizon Controls is in a better position than these three here to rank for that key phrase. The reason that it's not ranking for that key phrase is it doesn't have any links that are relevant, and possibly something to do with it. Once we do a website audit, we can work some things out. But so this seems to have 20 links. It says. So let's have a quick look at that. Those 20 links that are ranking it up there for, is that BEMS? Excuse me, BEMS Limited. Yeah. So it has links from Trend Controls. It has an inner link from itself on one of its own websites. So they're not great links, but they are links. So that page is just really getting general links, nothing targeted to tell Google it's about that. But it's getting some power probably from Trend Controls, so you can see them here. And it's all what I call branded anchor text. So there's nothing in this to say specifically that page is about building energy management systems. But something to point out, which is the power of having the keyword in your domain. They have BEMS in their domain. So why that is why they're ranking is because of their domain name. Whether it's done intentionally or not, from an SEO point of view, it's a smart move. So with that in mind, I'm going to come off a bit of a tangent. It may be an idea for Horizon Controls going forward to look at what I call creating lead magnets or authority sites around keywords. So buildingmanagementsystems.net is available, actually. So you could look at something like that, and I can look at other alternatives. So that's why they're ranking. BEMSenergy.co.uk. I think we've got a similar situation. They're linking domains, Trend Controls, and their own site. The anchor text is all, it looks like, it's just branded. And it seems to be all coming from Trend Controls, probably one of their partners. And again, all branded, but they've got BEMS in their domain. So Google's reading that and thinking, right, well, actually, that must be something to do with BEMS, this site, so I'm going to rank it for BEMS. It's not rocket science, really. So they have got a bunch of links with naturally, because of their domain, they're getting away with that sort of. Or normally that would be over optimized. So none of this is hyper competitive, especially these guys here. The one thing they have got on Horizon Controls is they've got keyword in their domain, but we can tackle that over time reasonably easily. Building management system is got Wikipedia at the top, so and then trend controls again, which is the same page. So on the face of it, I think the just around those phrases at least, and they would be some of the main ones, then I don't see it as hyper competitive. I think there can be a strategy put in to get Horizon Controls moving on that. Looking at the existing position of Horizon Controls, you've got things you're ranking for on page 1 are really at the moment just branded phrases. So these are of no real value from a search point of view because the search already knows what they're looking for. Excuse me. The first, what I would call intent to buy key phrase, would be energy saving technology, still quite broad. Energy performance contracting, your position 57. Energy Horizon. So yeah, this Sheffield building control, still probably a bit broad for my liking. Energy Management Systems UK, your position 90. BMS Controls Company's position 75. So there's some things to start on, a few things to start on there, which would quite quickly move them up move you guys up the rankings with those. But you would need a strategy around some of what we would identify as our key phrases, and maybe you could pick out some of them from here. So I think looking at the amount of phrases to go after, then I would need to look into it further. But I could go through, and what I would find basically, I would look for ways in that we can create a path towards ranking for some of the more higher volume key phrases. So things like this is what I'd probably look at first: building energy management systems, BEMS, because that would give us a path towards getting towards some of the shorter tail stuff. I can explain that another time. Sorry, that probably didn't make a lot of sense, but it was just me thinking out loud, really. I think another thing to look at in terms of the site, being straight with you, in my opinion, it would need redoing. It looks dated. It's and not necessarily the content might not be dated. The content could be fine, but it in my mind it would need updating. Really, it just looks it's showing its age in terms of design. I don't think it has to be a big cost item either, really, mate. This is BEMS Limited. They've got like a one-page WordPress site. It looks like WordPress. Quite clean, quite nice. It's not brilliant. It's okay. I mean, I think again, it's probably the graphics weren't done fantastically well, but I think it looks a bit more up to date than Horizon Controls. I appreciate there is a certain element of technicality in the site, and I think Trend Controls is, I can see that it emulates that somewhat, but this to me has got a bit more, I don't know what the phrase is, but it looks more apt, I think, for the niche. So look at the other guys. Not overly impressed with this. Again, sort of showing its age a bit. But I would say, and I want to make a point really, because there's content here, you don't need to, it doesn't have to be a huge cost. I think a lot of the cost in it is putting the content together. So if I go into HVAC plant controls, yeah, you've got content in here. I think it would be really just, maybe images would be important. I think that is something to think about, is what images the company has got, if there are any case study images that you can use. Excuse me, so if you could collate those, if you wanted to do this, that is. Then I think quite quickly look at migrating this to a WordPress platform to give it to make it a bit more punchy, really. Okay. If there was much else really I wanted to go through. I mean, I think that was about it. I really do. I think I think looking at Horizon Controls in general, looking at its links. So where are we? You've got a few from. I could do a deeper sort of link search on this, but we've got some from. I think Cylon is a sort of industry relevant website. Trend Controls, but I would say apart from Trend Controls, there doesn't seem to be a lot of strategy going on from those competitors that I pointed out, at least. From an SEO point of view, I can tell that they haven't got a strategy in place, and you can normally tell that pretty quickly from the positions. So this Trend Controls, you can see, is like number one, number one, number one, 222. I mean, it takes still, even if I get to position, so this is like the 100th thing they're ranking for, they're still on page one. If you look at the other guys, they've got 3 things on page one. 3 things on page one. The other guys again, and I think Horizon Controls would fit into that category really, and all of those are branded. So at the moment, aside from maybe reference and people that know you, you're not really getting any benefit from the website apart from it being a reference point really. Okay, I'll leave it there. Otherwise, it'll go on too long and it will sort of defeat the object of me doing a reasonably short video. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. I know I jumped around a bit there, mate, but I think it'd be good to get some feedback first before I sort of investigate things further and see if it's really on the agenda for you to move forward with. Cool. All right, speak to you soon.